Welcome back, everyone. Today's video, what we're going to do is actually recreate the task manager that we had been working on in the previous videos. Last week, I just did sort of an introduction to Angular. And in that video, I said that we would come back this week and do another video where we reproduced the task manager that we had from before, but we were just going to do it in an Angular format. So this is going to be the task manager from the past, but as a single page application. So what I've got open here right now is my command prompt. And what I want to do is basically just navigate to where I'm going to store this file. So I've already actually sort of mapped to where I want to go right here in my file folder. So I'm in there now, and what I want to do is I have to, sort of do this at the command line. I mean, I could technically go in there and do this in WebStorm or something like that, but I want to do some installs into the actual project that I'm creating. This time I'm actually not going to call it Task Manager. I'm going to call it Mean SPA for single page application. So the way I'm going to do that, and I'll open up my, give some more space here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to type Express, and it'll be Mean SPA for single page application -- HBS. Okay. And of course I got a problem right away. So if you get this error that says Express is not recognized as an internal or external command. So what I want you to do is actually do npm -i, or not dash, no dash, sorry, space I, npm I express -generator, and then -g for global. Okay. And it's going to do an installation of Express. So for some reason, it wasn't seeing Express as something inside of my my particular file. That's okay. So now what I'm going to do is go back and do this Express Mean SPA -- HBS for handlebars. So there you go. Now it's asking me to, it says right here, change directory to Mean SPA. So I'm just going to do cd Mean SPA. Okay, so I'm in the new directory there. Okay. So now that you know that it does actually navigate to here, that's fine. We can go ahead and close this down. And what I've already done is actually navigated to it in WebStorm. I've opened up the project from WebStorm. And then I got this little box down here that asked me to click on this npm install for a JSON dependency. So I clicked on it. It's fine. You can go ahead and do that. But what you should have right now is, a file folder that looks like this. I opened mine up a little bit here. And if you click on your JSON, your package.json, you'll have something like this. Okay, so that's really all we're at right now. So just once you've done the command line creation of the project, go into the file folder that you created. Where did mine happen to live? I think mine is in here. Yeah, and so what's happening is I basically just clicked on that, and inside of WebStorm, you just navigate to WebStorm, open the project. And yeah, this should pop up is all I'm trying to say. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do is we're going to create two files inside of this. And I think it's going to be client and server are the two files that we're going to create. Sorry, not two directories. Should be one directory. And we're actually going to call this one server. So I'm going to go to new at the top of the file there, new directory. And I'm going to call this one server, lowercase, server. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually rename my routes, because I don't want it to say routes. I want it to actually say controllers. So in this way, I do that as a refactor. So I go to the refactor file and then I go to rename, and this one's going to be called controllers. Controllers with an S. Okay, and then I'm going to say refactor. Okay, so you can see that controllers is there and server is there. Now, the other thing I'm going to actually do is I'm going to drag my controller inside of my server folder. And you get this message that pops up, and it'll ask you to refactor. So you can see now when I go to the server folder and I drop down, you can see that controllers is actually inside of my server. Okay, so what I'm trying to do by moving or creating this server is I'm actually trying to separate my front end with my back end. Okay, so that's an important thing that we're trying to do here. So you just have to understand there's a front end and a back end to this, and I'm just trying to separate them out for the purposes of what we're doing today. I paused the video for a second there, and then I opened up two file folders. And the first one that I opened up is Task Manager, the one that we had been working on in previous videos. And now I've got this particular brand new project opened up as well. And so what I want to do to save myself a lot of work, because we're just recreating the same thing that we did before, we've got some of the work already done for us. So the two things that I want to do is I've got config, and I'm going to do my control button, and I'm going to go and get models. So I'm going to click on both of those from the old project. I'm going to right click on those, and I'm going to copy. I'm going to go down to the new project and right click and paste. So I'm pasting those two files into the new project. Now the last thing I'm going to do is actually move my models into the server folder. Okay, so now when I go back out to my project, you can see that I've now got config, which is in there. Okay, and it had the globals project, or the file in there, the globals.js. And then the other thing is if I minimize my server, but I open up server, you can see that I've got models in there. Okay, and those models are the models that we need to do this. There's just no real point in recreating them since we did this in a previous video already. So if you don't, for some reason, have these and you were following along and not actually creating this, then I would say go back to, go to my GitHub and get it, or just go to the previous video, I suppose, and start building it out. Other than that, hopefully you've just been actually doing your own version of this. But you can always, like I said, go to my GitHub and get it. If you go to my GitHub, make sure you're getting Task Manager v2, and you want, download the project folder and everything, and then you want config and models. Okay, so the files are actually in there. All right. Okay, let's get to work on the rest of this thing. So I might as well just let you know right now, we're not going to be doing any authentication or anything like that. Everything will just be public. So we're probably not going to use the user model, but tasks and the global file. So one thing that we still have to do is we'll go back to the command line. Okay, and I've got to navigate to that, which is this long path, but in your case, just navigate to your project file. Okay, and in here, we're actually going to have to reinstall Mongoose. Okay. Sorry, that's cd mean spa. Okay, I wasn't in the right file, but I'm in there now. And this is going to be npm mongoose. Okay. So sorry, it's a little bit off the screen, but npm I for install and mongoose. Okay, and there it goes. And just for fun, I'm going to do this Npm Audit Fix. I don't expect that it's going to fix much, if at all, anything. Well, it seems to have fixed 5 of 5 vulnerabilities. That's sort of surprising to me. I wasn't expecting it was going to do very much, but that's okay. The important thing is now that when you go to your package.json, you've got this line here, Mongoose. Okay, that's why we did that. And now we can open up our app.js. Okay, and we've got to do our DB connection in here now. So I put the comment in there, add our database connection. So that's going to be const mongoose equals require brackets, single quotes, and inside mongoose. Okay, and it picks it up. Good. And of course, before I forget, I have to actually do my globals. Globals will equal require, again in brackets and single quotes, and this one's going to be dot there, configure, okay, and then a slash globals. Okay, so we're not done with that yet. We actually do need to make the connection, so mongoose dot connect. Okay, so there's a lot to this, a lot more to this. I could have probably gone into the other project and just copy and pasted it, but it doesn't hurt to kind of refresh our memory on what's going on. Globals dot db, okay, global.db, comma, and we'll do a bracket, make some space down there. So this is going to be user username, or sorry, not name, user new URL. Let's see, it didn't give it to me. URL parser. Okay, and we're going to set that to true. Okay, and we'll do a comma, and this will be user use. Sorry, the above one is not use, it's our user. This one is unified field topology. So this one here, and that's going to also be set to true. Okay, let me go fix that up. It's not user, it's use. Okay. And I'm actually going to retype that because use, there it is. I want to use the IntelliSense to pick that up. Okay, and then what's after this? This will be, after the brackets, it'll be dot, then. Okay, bracket. And here it's going to be, inside the bracket. Okay, and then our lambda. And this will be console log. .log, and inside there we're going to say not double brackets, it's single quote, sorry, connected to mongoose or MongoDB. Okay, so that's the message that we're going to put out. After the brackets we're going to do sorry, this should be catch. Okay. And after this this function, so you got to notice I've got brackets and then another set of brackets. So I want to go give me some space outside of that, and we'll do a lambda. Okay, and then again brackets. This is, I have to say, that one thing that I find a little bit unpleasant is all these brackets and braces and all that kind of stuff. It's not that fun. I'm going to just copy and paste this right here, copy, paste, and I'm going to change my message to say connection error. Okay, and then I should be finalizing that there. So there's an issue with my catch. Sorry, there should be a dot there. Okay, just very similar to the way there's a dot in front of n, or then, and then a dot in front of catch. Okay, so that problem goes away. I'm actually going to change that. You are not connected to Mongo DB. There. That's a little more clear. Okay, let's try this thing out. Okay, we're going to just go back to our command line here. We're in the project and we'll do node mon. Hopefully we get the message. Yep. Okay, connected to MongoDB. If I go out to here and I say localhost, I want 3000 and I'm hoping for the, it's okay. Not really what I was hoping for here. Is it here? No, I didn't want it to do that. Okay, let me close that down. Okay, that's what I wanted. Localhost 3000. So that's actually running. So I'm happy about that. Okay, because if this did not, if this was showing an error, then we wouldn't have been able to connect into this localhost. Don't forget, each time that you do this, there's a chance you got to go into your task manager and shut down your node. Okay, so that's a possibility as well. So really quickly, what I want to do is just do a super quick review of what we just tried to do. Okay, so we made this new project file, and we had already done this previous project where we created models in the past. We created these globals, okay, and they look like this. We had this connection string that we created to get into our Mongo database. Okay, and then from there, all we did is actually went into our apps.js, and then we created these two variables to, Mongoose here, and then we're basically creating the variable into our configure globals, which is this one here. Okay, and then we're connecting in, so we wrote this function here, or method here, just to make the connection into our Mongo database. Okay, so that's all we've done. And this is the same database that we created in the past in our other task manager application. Okay, so we repurposed a lot of the code that we had already done in the past because really there's no need to reinvent the wheel. We're just creating the same task manager application that we did before. We're just using Angular to do it in a different way, but it's the same thing. So really no need to reinvent everything when we can go and get the same database, same models, and same connections, and just repurpose them for what we want to do in this Angular. So I want to take a moment and conceptually try my best to demonstrate what we did in the past and what we're trying to do today. Okay, so we have this MVC, model view controller paradigm, or construct, whatever you want to call it. And so in our old task manager, what we had was our client, which was our views. Okay, we had Mongo, our database, and we were using node modules, or models, sorry. Okay, and in this, we had these layers. They were Express server and our Mongo DB. Okay, and when we got to the controller, when we wanted to do stuff, we were calling one get function or one get method each time we were doing this. Okay, so what we're doing is a little different, obviously, in the next this thing with Angular right now. So what we've got is we still have our Mongo, okay, and we've got our node model, and we've got this Express, okay, and our Express is our server, and our view is the client. Okay, so in this particular case, we've got in our client these Angular directives that we're going to use. Okay, and we have these two new ideas here. Okay, so one is our Angular service, and it calls the server API and returns it returns response data. Okay, and then over here, what we have is our Angular component. Okay, and that's the interface between the service and the user interface. Okay, so notice that everything seems to be coming out of the controller. Okay, let's look at that as, say, maybe our traffic cop. Okay, that is what's directing traffic between the two. And notice I don't have a direct line between the model and the view. Okay, so what we're doing is we're adding these two things here, this Angular component and our Angular service. Okay, and there are different sort of layers in what we're trying to do. And the last thing I want to talk about here is that previously we were using really one get method. But in this case, we're going to have multiple get methods, and we're probably going to have about 3 of them. It seems like it's a duplication of code, but perhaps you could say it is, maybe it's not, depends on how you look at it. But at the end of the day, we're going to have to create these different get methods to do what we want it to do. Okay, so I hope that that's not a confusing way of showing what we're trying to do here with the new task manager. Okay, and as we get in there, we'll talk about this API controller and stuff like that, or server API. Okay, so let's get back into the code. So I'm going to go into my controller and create a new file, and this one is going to be called tasks, which will actually be JavaScript. Okay, so new JavaScript file. Okay, and I mentioned in the beginning, we still do use JavaScript in here. Okay, this one is going to be tasks with an S. Okay, and there it is. So the first thing I do is I need my 2 variables. So if I go into index and I open that up, I basically need the same as these 2 lines right here. So I can copy those, or if you want to type them out, go ahead. Okay, but that's what they are. And I gotta make these public. So we'll do make public. Okay, and that's just module dot exports. And that equals router. Yeah, this one there. Sorry, I need to put in a comment in here so it's a little bit more understandable. Okay, so I'm going to instantiate an Express router as usual. Okay. And this here is going to be down pretty far at the bottom anyway. Okay. And I'll clean that up. I don't need the semicolon really. So these lines, these 3 lines are going to be identical no matter what we do. Okay, inside a controller. And the next thing we need to do is reference our task model. Okay, so that's just task task, and that is require. And in here, we're just going to reference to where it is, right? So single quotes dash, and then basically map to it. So we're models and then into tasks or task. Okay, that's all that line is. And then what we want to do is go, how about this? Get all. Okay, I just want to make that comment fairly obvious. And when I say get all, what I'm looking for is, you remember from the last time we had our, in our task manager, we had that one page with all of the tasks on there that were reading to the screen what the tasks were. So it was basically that list of tasks that we had put into there. So that's what we really want to go ahead and be able to see. So I think what I'm going to do is just, I'm going to go ahead and type this in, and you can follow along. Okay, so this is, so I'm going to return all the tasks to this view. So what I'm saying here in this code is to basically go return all of the tasks. Okay, so find these tasks that are being that are in our database, and if you get an error, then return a status code 400. Okay, but if not, then return the status of 200. Okay, and we'll be looking to our JSON.tasks. So in this scenario, we're either going to get a list of tasks or we're going to get an error. It's one or the other. So really quickly, I just want to look at what I'm asking for. So this is the http status.com. So a 200 is okay. And what's a 400? A bad request. No, I'm not going to select 418. I'm a teapot or any of these other ones. So these are what the status codes are. So what I'm looking for is a 200 is everything is okay, or 400, that's a bad request. And I had to just go ahead and see what this 418 was. I'm a teapot. Any attempt to brew coffee with a teapot should result in the error code 418, I'm a teapot. The resulting entity body may be short and stout. Anyway, it's funny. So one more thing we do need to do is do our URL mapping. So, because if I want to go into here and do, let's say, tasks right here, I get this 404. Okay, obviously this makes sense that I'm getting the 404 error because I haven't actually set this up yet. Okay. So we're going to go into our apps.js, okay, and go right here, line 9, which is below our users router. And we're going to say var tasks controller, okay, equals the same as the, almost the same as the one above. So require, okay, and then we just need to map to where we're intending to go. So this will be .server, okay, and to controllers. And then finally to tasks, okay? And that off with a semicolon. And the next thing we need to do is the actual URL mapping. So if we go down to here, you can see right here. Now, if you look at index router and users router, okay, that's what these are right here. This line 7 and 8. Okay, so we basically need to go down to here and do the same thing. So this will be app.use, just like the one above. Okay. Okay. And then we're just going to map to where we're trying to go again. But in this case, it's going to be tasks. Have to add in a comma, and we hopefully will get. It didn't do the IntelliSense, which I was hoping it would do, and that would be because I actually went inside the quotation. So you can see it right there, task controller. Okay. So I just added this little line in there, but if I save this and now I go back out and I go to tasks, I should get a JSON representation of the table. So there you go. This is now the representation that our old task view gave us. That's what it looks like now. So I'm running mine in Chrome. You may be using a different browser, but what I want to do is say, let's try this. Chrome JSON formatter. See what we come up with. I'm looking for this extension so that I can look at this in a different view. See what we come up with. Okay, so I'm looking for more something along those lines. So I'll try this out. Add extension. Whatever. And maybe this will actually work or not. There. Okay, so I've got a different view of what I wanted to see. Okay, so it's just put it into a different format for me. That's okay. You don't have to do that. It's just, I find a little bit easier to see the JSON in this view. The nice thing about this is down on the bottom corner, you've got raw, which is what we had originally, or parsed. Okay. You don't have to do that. I'm just doing it so that you see that there's an actual difference between, it's more clear or more intuitive that when you see it this way, you immediately recognize that, hey, I'm looking at a JSON file. Okay, because when we look back at the tasks that we were doing, ultimately what we were saying was like, if no matter what, we're returning a JSON file. Okay, and that's the important thing is. So right now in this line of code that we did, this was actually what we're looking at right now is that we return JSON tasks. So when we go to our view, that's what we are seeing. This is now also considered this 200 code. Okay, that everything is okay. So now if I go into here and I do an inspect and I go to console, I could go to console and look at it, but you can see here, type JSON to inspect, and it says content.js 200. Okay, or you can go to your console here and it says 200. Okay, meaning that everything is okay. Another nice thing about this that I just noticed is that you can expand or contract everything on there if you want. Okay, just to give yourself more real estate if you're trying to troubleshoot or debug. Okay, so the good news is the server side, the server end is done. Okay, now it's over to the controller and start writing methods. So that's a good part. So we need methods for looking at a single task, and then for adding, editing, and deleting tasks. So that's at least 4 methods that we have to write. So I added this little comment here just to denote this as the API. In the slide, I was showing that we were going to be using this controller API. Well, here it is. This is that get method is actually the API. So the next thing I actually want to do is this particular API, this get all, gets everything. It's returning everything on our page. Now what I want to do is just return a singular task. So that's what I want to do next. So one thing I can do is I can get all of this. I can get a lot of it, but make a couple of small changes. So what I'm going to do is copy this. I'm going to paste it in there, and then I'm going to go in and do some editing on here. Okay, so there's probably about 3 little things on here that I do want to go ahead and change. Okay, so the first one is, if you look here, what I was saying was in my path, I was outlining my path, but I wasn't really specifying individually what I want. So if I do this, if I add the colon and underscore ID. So when we go to our page out here, okay, you're seeing this. Okay, and don't forget, this is like the equivalent to a primary key. Okay, so that's what I'm looking at right there. I'm saying I want to get that. And then this here will stay. I'm going to change this note to say selected task. All right. And I'm going to, instead of this find, I'm going to say find by, and you can see it come up here. Now it says find by ID and delete and remove and update. I'm just going to do find by ID. Okay, for now, I'm just doing find by ID. Okay, so this one, my parameter list is going to change a little bit. I'm still going to keep this, but for this particular library method, it's going to need required dot param. Is it params? Yeah, params dot underscore ID. Okay, and then a comma, and then we'll continue on with this. We go into the error. Okay, we'll keep the same error status that we had before. So I think that's really the only changes that we have to make to that. Yeah, it looks like it is to me. So there is actually one way that I could go and test this right now. Okay, and the first thing I'm going to do is, let's say right here, this one here. What I can actually do is to test this out to see if it actually works is basically to drop in the ID. Okay, so what I've been asking for is to identify it by a single ID, which is this right here. And then I'm navigating to tasks and I'm dropping in the ID. And then now I know right now that it does in fact work in this manner. So for now, the server's done, but we're going to still have to add the add, edit, and delete. Okay, so that functionality still has to be added here. But for now, the server's done. So let's get the Angular piece to talk to these APIs. I've gone ahead and halted my server on here. You can see I hit the Control-C to stop or to terminate the job. Okay, and I've turned the application off. And I'm in my command line prompt here in the terminal. So I'm going to actually need to keep this one open. And I'm going to open up another command prompt. Okay, and this one I'll probably have to navigate to. The reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to have to actually do a little bit of installation, but I also have to keep my local server going. So I need two of these to do this, this step. So while I'm leaving my server running, I can then use the command prompt to make the Angular app inside the other in my other command prompt. So in a sense, I'm using my command prompt, but I'm also using the terminal in here to do two things sort of simultaneously. So you can see here in my command prompt and down here in the terminal, they're matching. So I'm going to use the Angular CLI inside my terminal to do what I want to do here. Okay, let's just look at the file directory right here. Okay, so we have server, but we don't actually have client. And that's what I'm going to use Angular for, is to create that client side of this. Okay, so what I'm going to type in here in my command line is going to be this: ng, which is Angular, new, and then client. Okay, hit enter. And I expect that I'm going to get a couple of prompts. So here it is. And what is this one? So what this is asking me is if I want to enforce stricter type checking and stricter bundle budgets in the workspace. In the future, I would say yes, but for what we're going to do, I'm just going to hit no. Okay, so it's a capital N. And would you like to add Angular routing? Now, last week we said no, but this week we're actually going to say yes. So it's a lowercase y. And then I'm just going to hit enter because it's asking me which style sheet format would you like to use. Okay, it's suggesting right here this CSS. So I'm just going to hit enter. Okay, and it's creating this and installing it and everything. It's doing all the packages. So the routing is that we just selected here is going to be really important because we need our Angular components that I talked about last week in the video, swapping out components. I need the components to use HTTP to call the server API. Okay, so that's an important thing. And if you look now inside this client, we've got this new folder called client. And inside here, we now have all of this Angular stuff. So remember last week we said, okay, here's our apps. Okay, and in apps, it consisted of all these different file folders. Now, last week, what I had said was that there was actually 5. In this particular case, there's actually 6. Okay, so it's important that we have this Angular inside our application now. And look at this distinction. Okay, so we have a client and we have a server. So if I were to close up everything, you've got a client side and a server side. Okay, and that server consists of the controllers. Okay, and this client side is going to be, the interaction between the user and the website or the application. Okay, this is all going to be, this houses all of our database stuff. And then somewhere in between, right, we use the controllers to link the two of them so they can talk to each other. So just as a reminder, if ng is not recognized, then you do need to actually do the installation again for the Angular in CLI. Okay, and what that was last week, I'm not going to put that in here. I'm just going to type it in so you know what it looks like. So it's npm. It'll be this npm I, and then it is the @ Angular /CLI and then -G for global. Okay, that's how you're gonna, this is what we did last time in the previous video to this. So that's what you would need. Clearly I'm not gonna do that because I'm already set up and I'm good to go. So this is what I'm talking about when I say that I need to set up this relationship. So this is the client side, right? This is where the views are and all of the Angular directives. So this is what we just set up now, was the Angular side of this. So we're creating now the Angular components that we're going to switch out, on our views using HTML, CSS, TypeScript, and all that kind of stuff. And then on this side, we've got the server API. Okay, so we've done the server side of this already today, but now it's how do we deal with this relationship in here? Okay, the centerpiece, the controller. So of course we still have to build out what we want to see inside each Angular component, and then we got to work out how do we connect the two. Okay, so that's the big sort of focus of what we're going to do right now. Okay, so now what I need to do is actually, using my command line, I need to navigate into this folder. So that's just CD for change directory to client. Okay, so you can see now I'm in client, and now I want to install all my dependencies. So I'm going to do npm and just I and hit enter. And yes, there's something seriously satisfying about watching it do the install and actually working. Okay, so yeah, so it says 79 packages are looking for funding, run npm fund. I'm not going to worry about that. Found 0 vulnerabilities. So I'm going to go ahead while I'm still in client, and I'm going to do npm start. So from the npm start, I'm getting this localhost 4200. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. Okay, so this is that particular page that I'm getting. Okay. Now I'm going to open up my other one. You can see that I'm not inside the client folder. So npm start. I probably could have done nodemon too. Okay, so I'm connected to MongoDB. That's good. So let me go to here and see what happens. Okay, so interesting. Just so that I know that this is working, I'm going to go to tasks. Okay, so there we go. I've got both of them open. I've got 3000 open and I've got 4200 open. So let me just take the tasks out of there. Okay. So I've got both of these views open right now. One is in this Express, the other one is now in my Angular. Okay, so keep in mind all of this stuff here, this is one big component in our single index page. This is the stuff that we worked on last week. So I just want to show you really quickly. Okay, it's important. We have this message that says connected to MongoDB, and then we go back to here. You can see that we're actually running here and it tells us to go to the local host. So it says Angular Live development server is listening to localhost. Okay. And it's actually actively opening. And so that is why we're able to see this Angular one and then this Express view. Okay. So what's really interesting about this is that they're all the same web application. Okay, but I have this front end now, okay, which is all of this stuff here. And I have this back end here, okay, which is all of this. But there's no connection between the two of them yet. Okay, there's nothing. So it's almost as if though they're two websites completely independent, even though they're all part of the same intended website application. So let's go back up to the client for a minute. And I already kind of talked about the fact that we were looking at this app. Okay, if I expand that, we've got these files there. But when I go to my index page, okay, this is my app root. So that means what I'm calling into the body of my HTML index page is really everything associated with this particular folder. Okay, so what I am going to do is I'm going to leave this stuff alone. This is all boilerplate stuff. If you look, like, this HTML is close to, how many lines of code is that? 534. Okay, so this stuff I'm going to just leave alone. And I think now what I want to do is scaffold out my own app root, or my own version, or my own component that has to do with my task manager. Okay, so I'm basically going to create my own task manager view, and we're not going to be referring to this app root anymore. We're going to create a whole different one. And that's what we're going to call inside the body tags of our index HTML. So the page that we're going to build from scratch is what we're now going to see. We're no longer going to see the home page of this particular stuff here. That's not what we're going to see anymore. Okay, we're going to see the one that we create. Now, if I do go to this page, I want you to understand there's this command here, this ng generate component XYZ. Obviously, we're not going to call our page XYZ, but we are going to use that CLI command line interface code to do the generation. So I'm actually going to copy this. Okay, copy. But my challenge for the moment is I actually need a third command line, like another interface, because this one here is got, and it is running our localhost 4200. This one is running our localhost 3000. So I actually need a third one in order to run that command I want. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to go to here to command prompt. I'm going to do another one. Okay, and it opens another one. So I'm going to just CD and navigate to it. Now I just copy and pasted where my project is located, and I want to be in my client. So you can see that I'm in the actual client right here. So what I'm going to do is basically I've taken this command, okay, and I'm going to paste it in there, and I'm going to give it a name, and it's going to be task. Okay, so lowercase and singular, just the word task. Okay, and enter. And you can see what the result is here, that it has created our 5 folders. Okay, and it's got component.html, component.spec.ts or TypeScript, component TypeScript, component.css. So inside of our file structure here, you see we've got the apps, we've got task. Okay, and if I open up that, you can see that this breaks down into these components here. But there's another thing that's been updated here. And that is this file here, this app.modules.ts. And you can see what happened is it actually created the line, this task component from task.component. Okay, so these two existed before. Now this one has been created. And if you look at our 2 ng model declarations, you had app component and we now have task component. Okay. So app.modules.ts has been now updated as well. Now I could have manually created all these files, but I'd much rather do it the efficient way, the smart way, because putting in this single line of code in there makes a lot more sense to me than trying to do this all hydraulically, and that's no fun. So really quickly, when we open up our task.component.ts or TypeScript, we open up this file, you see what we've got here. Okay, that it's from Angular core. Okay, and that we have the selector. Our selector is app-task. Okay, and it talks about the fact that we have HTML, we've got CSS. Okay, and there's a task component implements on initialization or on init, and it calls the constructor. Okay, so this is, the important thing is here is that we have our selector. Okay, and when I talked last time about, where is it? Where do I want to look? I want to look in my app component select TypeScript. Same thing here. Okay, our selector for app was called app-root. Okay, so I think you probably understand where this is going next. Because if I go to my TypeScript, it says app task, okay, with my selector. So if you think about this for a minute, what would make sense to modify inside my HTML so that I'm no longer seeing this, I'm seeing the components that we just called or that we just made. Okay. So let's do this update right here. Okay. This needs to be task. Okay. And notice that when I changed that, the other side of it changed as well. So I'm going to hit save and I'm going to go back to that. And you can see I'm still in localhost 4200. Okay. But let's now go see why it's a blank screen. Okay. Because if I go into my task and then I look at my HTML, there's nothing here but task works. Okay, that's all I'm really seeing on that view. And I'm going to refresh that for a second. So the reason that it's not doing this is if we go back to our app component TS, sorry, maybe not that one. I think it is... yeah, right here in our app.module.ts. The issue is if you look at the bootstrap right here, okay, it is still pointing to the app component, okay, which is, it's still pointing to all of these things in here. Okay, so what we want to do is change that to say task. Okay, so task component. That's what we want that to say. Oh. All right. So I'm going to save that. And now let's go back And you see task works is what we see now. So what I can do is go into my task HTML and I can change this. I'll take it out and I'm going to make it an H1. Okay. I thought that it would have actually, okay. So strangely enough, it didn't pick it up, but then it did. So I'm going to say mean task manager. Okay. Put that in there, just to kind of differentiate between the last one. Okay, and so that now updates in there. And, you know, a note about the CSS. We haven't really done any global CSS in here yet. Remember, we've got our style sheet down here that we could go in and do some global editing of CSS if we wanted to. But we can also go right into the new task component CSS and start making CSS style of changes as well. Okay. So I've gone ahead and opened up two file folders, and the one is the old project file, and this one is the new one that we're working on. Okay, so if I go back out to this and I open up client, and I've got source. Okay, so of the two, what I'm gonna do is inside my public folder, this had all my images, my Facebook stuff from last time. It had the JavaScript files that we had written, and it's got some style sheets, including the bootstrap. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is actually take this whole entire file and I'm gonna copy that. And I think the place that I want to put that is going to be in right in here in my client in source. Okay, so I'm going to go to there and I'm going to paste. So I've pasted that entire folder into there. So now that it's in there, what I'm going to do is link to it in my index.html. Okay, which is this particular file over here, or this one here. So now that I'm in my index HTML, what I want to do is actually now use the bootstrap file that we created before. Okay, so from this task manager, you know, we had in our style sheets this bootstrap. Okay, so that was from the old project and I've now copied it in. So technically I should be able to navigate to it and use this particular file. So this is what I'm attempting to do right now. So in here in my index, I'm going to do a link. And this is going to be really similar to the line above. And this will be style sheet. Let's see, style sheet. Okay. And then outside of that quotation, we're going to do an href. And this is going to equal assets. So I'm looking for, is it assets? Let me just check. Source. Assets. Flash. Style sheets. Is it going to let me do it this way? Let me just check. Okay, so before I finish this line, I do want to make a little bit of a change when I think about this. So in the new project, I've got public, so I guess I'll do it the easier way. Go grab this, put that here, so that I'm actually now in the same folder. And in this case, though, I'm going to go up one level. And because I've already got assets here, okay, what I want to do is take everything out of public. Okay, so what I'm going to do is move images up into assets of my project. Okay, I'm going to take JavaScript, I'm going to move that into assets. And style sheet, I'm also going to move that into my assets. So when you look at this public now, it's empty. Okay, so there's no public anymore, you can see here. So I think what I will do is actually just remove that public file folder. Okay, so if we look at this, so it's gone. I've moved everything into assets, so I can close one of these down and you can see that everything is still there. Okay, it's all in there. So that's the one thing that I want to do. And now when I go ahead and I look at this stuff here, it'll make more sense to put my assets. So that's not SRC. That is actually going to just be the assets. And then I'm going to try and see if the IntelliSense will pick it up. Style sheets. Okay, good. So style sheets. And then bootstrap. Okay, right here. So just to confirm that too, I want to go in and look at my, let me close some of this stuff up. I guess I don't have to, but you can see now that in my assets folder, I've got images, JavaScript in the style sheets. Okay, and there's the bootstrap minified. Okay, and then there's the style.css. Okay, so let's go and have a look. Let's see what this thing looks like. It's probably, yeah, okay, so it's already done its own updating, obviously, and you can tell that that is a much different looking font than what we had previously. So I'm going to go into my app.component TS, okay, and you can see on the title, so when I go into the browser, on here it says client. So I'm going to change this to say mean tasks. Okay, I'm going to just change that, save it. Just go out and have a look. Okay, hopefully it'll update. And it didn't. So, and the reason it didn't do that is because it's actually hard-coded right here. Okay, in my index.html. So I'm going to call this still again mean task manager. It's kind of long to be on a tab. So, but there it is. So mean task manager. Okay. So I kept open my command prompt and I'm actually inside my client folder right there. Okay, because I need to now go and create a new directory called services. And I want it to be inside of client. Okay, so I'm just going to choose to do it this way in the command prompt. Okay, and clearly what I'm trying to do is create the new services folder or directory inside of client right here. So if I go to here and all I'm going to do is type in mkdir, so make directory services. Okay, just like that. So now that I've created the services, what I want to do is change directory to services. Okay, and inside of this, now I want to do this command ng g for generate. Okay, and it's going to be service task. You can see up above here, I did this once and I ended up putting it into the wrong folder. So I just deleted it and now I'm starting over. So what you're seeing is I'm actually now inside my services folder and it's ng g for generate service task. Okay, so enter. And you'll see that it created these two service.sp or spec.ts and service.ts. Okay, so let me minimize that and let's look at that file. Okay, so I'm in client. Okay, and I'm in service, and now I've got task, and I've got task service.spec.ts and service.ts. And wouldn't you know it, I did it again. I actually want to have services inside of my app. Okay, that's where I want it to actually be. So I have to probably get out of here Let's go with this. Oops. CD ... just to get out of there because it's not going to let me move it if I'm locked into there. So what I want is to move services into, it looks like right into app. Okay, so if I move that, and I'm just going to select the refactor. Okay, so now what I've got is in my app, I have services with these two files, and I still have tasks with all of these files. Okay, and be aware of this relationship, okay, between app, which has all of these main ones here, okay, and on sort of an equal footing are these two file folders, okay, services and tasks. In the hierarchy, these are equal to these two, okay? All right, just to review so that I don't create any confusion for anybody, I need to have this folder, this services, inside my app folder, okay, or my app directory. This is where services is. And then I had gone ahead, I created the actual services directory. Then I navigated to it and I ran this command here called ng service task. Okay, and when I did that, what it did is it scaffolded or it created these two files right here. Okay, task service.ts. Okay, I mistakenly put it in the wrong spot, but my intention was to always have services put inside of app. And so when I open that up, this is what our services or service.ts file looks like. Okay. And it's got this line, this injectable. And when we talk about injectable, we're talking about dependency injection. Okay. So it means this service can be injected as a dependency to something else. Okay. It means that something else is going to be able to use this. And in this case, the something else is going to actually be our component. So I've got a couple of things I do need to import in here, and they both have to do with some JSON file, but you know, import, and one is our HTTP client. HTTP, I'm looking for client. Okay, and a comma, and then the other one is our HTTP header. Is that it? Headers. This one here. Okay, and you'll see it automatically filled out the from Angular common HTTP. Okay. Now the next one that I need is this one. Okay, this is the import observable. And what this one is doing, it is silently sitting there and it is waiting for requests. Okay, and it's just standing by waiting as a go between the client and the server. That's ultimately what it's trying to do. Okay, I don't have to overcomplicate it, but just know that it is sitting there silently and it is waiting and waiting for you to do something. Okay, and then once it does that, then it has the ability to take some action. Okay. I know that's not a great example, but it is really what it's doing. The reason it's called observable, it's because it's observing and it's waiting. So it waits until you get, you know, you send something, you're waiting for a response, it's observing for a response. And once you get the response, then it can go off and do something else. You could almost say it's like an asynchronous event handler. Okay, it is literally waiting for the user to take action. And it's just standing by to do so. And I'm not going to spend too much more time on it, but at the end of the day, you need it, okay? I'm going to go down and look at the constructor here. And I want you to understand that this is where we're going to get into some dependency injection. Okay, so if we're saying we've got injectable, and then I'm importing a couple of different libraries, it stands to reason that I should be able to go in and call those. Okay, so for my actual constructor, I've got a note that I'm going to put in here, and it says inject HTTP client so the service can make HTTP calls to the Node API. And all I want to do in here is private, and it's going to be HTTP client. Okay, so I was hoping that the IntelliSense was going to have this. So this is going to be like this, HTTP colon. All right, and then it's HTTP client. Okay, and just for the record, there's no S. Okay, it's not HTTPS. So what I do want to have though is that all the responses or requests and responses, they're going to be in a JSON format. Okay. So let's just put a comment in there. Okay, instantiate headers so all HTTP calls are JSON formatted. Okay, and the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to say const. Oh, wow, that was pretty wild. Okay, const. Okay, and this will be HTTP options. Okay, so we're going to call this HTTP options equals brackets, and I'm going to say header. Actually, let me go. Yeah, I'll stay here. Header. Actually, that's a headers with an S and a colon, and we're going to say new HTTP headers. Okay, the first one there, and you note that it's coming from Angular. And then inside those, that method call, we're going to do the brackets, and we're going to say single quotes, content. It's okay. I was hoping it would pick it up. Type. Okay, and just outside of that, we're going to do colon, and then this is going to be application/JSON. So app, does it give it to me? Application/JSON. Okay, and it's needs to be in a quote, in a single quote, sorry. In a single quote. And where does this other one go? This one belongs somewhere else at the front. So single quotes, content type, colon, single quotes, application, JSON. And do my brackets look fine? Yeah, I think my brackets look fine. Something I do have to do is I go to my config folder, right, and go into globals. Now, one thing I'm going to definitely do is I'm just going to leave these alone, the Facebook stuff. I'm not going to touch those, but I'll leave them in there anyway. Okay, but just to be clear, I don't need them for this version of the task, but I am going to do some updating in here. I'm going to take this GitHub idea out of there. That was from a previous video. We never really developed that, but I don't need it, so I'm going to take it out. So I'm going to make a quick modification to this, put that down there, close this up a little bit, and right after this comma, what I want to do is this, I'm going to call it single quotes API root. Okay, and colon, and this is going to be colon, sorry, not colon, single quotes HTTP colon slash local host. Sorry, localhost colon 3000. Okay, and on the other side, I'll put a comma because I'm going to go down to client root, and that will be the other local host. Okay, so that's going to be HTTP colon local host colon 4200. Okay. And that's all that's going to be right now. All right. So one thing is this should have actually been in a single quote and another single quote here. Okay. I'm going to hit save. So I'm putting this into the global configuration because I only want to do it in one location. Okay. And obviously we're using these two local hosts, the 3000 and 4200, but they both mean different things. Okay. So when we talked about this before, this is our 3000 and this is our 4200. Okay. So I want to configure those in our global configurations to mean those two things. So if I call my app root, that's the host. If I say client root, this is the host that I'm looking for. So it's best to put those in my global configuration file. So I do need to make a reference to this in the service so that I can go ahead and get that path. So what I'm going to do is make that reference now, and I'm in my task.service. So I'll put a comment, get API service server server path from config. Okay, so if you follow it all the way through all the paths, like basically through from where we are in this task.service TS all the way to globals, it's actually going to look something like this. Okay, so we're going to just do a paste here. It'll be import globals from, okay, and then this is the path. Okay, so it's 2/2/2/2 config globals. Okay, so that's what that's going to end up being. Now I want to say that it is it's interesting to me though that instead of just doing like a map to it, or say creating a variable called globals or something like that, all we're doing is just actually using the import. Okay, so that's kind of a neat thing that we have as an option, that we can import that. Okay, and I would assume that the grayed out color is just because of the nature of where it's being imported from, as opposed to these being more maybe an external library. This is an internal file that it's importing from. That's just my guess as to why that color is the way it is in this IDE. So now what I'm going to do below this client is let's see, give me some space. And I'm going to put this comment in there. So it's going to be a get. So get all tasks from the Node API and format call response as JSON. Okay. And so what this is going to look like in terms of code. So I'm going to, call the API and then return in JSON all of the data that we have stored. And what this is going to look like, I'm going to make a method, and it's going to be get tasks. Okay. And we'll write this method like this. First thing I'm going to do, is I'll do it all in one line. Return. Okay. This is going to be kind of ugly. Return this.http. Okay. Dot. Is it in here? Get. Okay. And this is just a method here. And this will be globals. You can see it shows up. Dot AP. Is it in here? Root. Okay, I was hoping that it would be in here. Okay, and it's not picking it up. Okay, so then it's going to be plus. Okay, so you notice that it converted it into a URL. Plus, I do it every time. It's single quotes, tasks, comma, I got to put the brackets in there. So the comma's got to go on the outside, comma, HTTP options, right? So that's all I want for that particular method. Okay. And so when we look at this, we've got it's asking for a URL, right? So it's saying, go to globals, because we've done the import up here. That's why we can see it. Okay. Go to globals and get that API root, which is this thing right here. Okay. This is the API root, and it's saying, okay, this is my local host, is what I'm saying there. And then from my local host plus tasks and HTTP options, okay, which we have done right here on this line 9, HTTP options. Okay. Now, of course, the intent of this is to set it to JSON. Okay, because that's the format that we're looking at it. So we want to go and get our task back into JSON. There's another configuration that we have to do, because in order for our service to be able to use HTTP, we actually have to go to app module. We need the HTTP component in here. So I've gone and put the comment in here. So we want to add our HTTP module to interact with the server API. And that's just an import statement, similar to the one at the very top. So this one is import, brackets, obviously, and it's going to be HTTP client module is the one that I'm actually looking for. So right down here, client module from Angular common HTTP. Okay, so there's that we needed to put in there. And then there is this one down here. So we've put the browse module, the app routing module, but we have to add one more, and that is the HTTP client module. Okay, so we have to add that to it as well. Well, I am getting this issue for now, but what I'm going to do is just ignore it for the moment, because I'm not entirely convinced that this is going to actually give me a problem right now. So let's move on, and if we need to, we can come back to this. So let's move over to our app.component.ts. Okay, and we can do a little bit more updating inside of here. So my comment is in there, reference task service and observable class. And what I'm going to do is import tasks, capital T, tasks. Is it in there? Let's see if it gives me, I'm looking for tasks service right there. Okay, task service, and you see it's referencing services task.service. Okay, and it finishes off the line for me. And I've got one more thing that I'm going to do. And I do want to tell you something. I'm going to correct something that I said earlier about the color of these things. Okay, and the reason that these things are actually grayed out is because they haven't been used yet. They haven't been called. So that's why they turn gray. It has nothing to do with the mapping the way I was speculating before. Okay, so we're going to do import observable. Okay, this first one there, and it's from the RxJS. Okay, so eventually when we call these or we use them, then they're going to probably change the color again. So now inside our component, this is where we're going to use task service. And you'll watch and see that task service actually change color. So we're going to say provider. Okay, providers. Sorry. And when we say providers, what does it mean? It means that you're looking for the service, that task service up on my line 4. Okay, so providers is going to be, let's put the semicolon or the whatever that thing is. Okay, and that is going to be task service. Now watch that on line 4. Okay, it changes color. So anyway, what I said before was completely wrong. I was just speculating. And of course, the reason I'm getting the error is because I didn't put the comma. Okay, so that's why providers was underlined. So I'm going to go now into my app component. Okay, so when I go right below that, I'll give myself some space, and I'm going to say tasks colon any. Okay, and I'll put a semicolon in there, and then I'm going to do a constructor, and we're going to use this little bit of dependency injection. Okay, so this is going to be private task service and task service. There, it popped up. So what I'm doing here with this line 16 is I'm setting up this tasks object. Okay, and the type is just going to be any. Okay, so just so you understand, that's the object of tasks. And so I've put this comment in here, and it says when Angular initializes this component automatically calls the API to get all tasks. Okay, so what does that look like? So this is going to look like this. So I can do ng on init. Okay, and this will be a method. Okay, and we're going to say this dot task service. Okay, from the app.component.ts. Okay, it's going to be dot get tasks. Okay, and that's a method call as well. But then here we're going to do subscribe. Okay, subscribe, and inside there we're going to say response, res. Okay, this and this are lambda, and the brackets as always. So the console dot log, okay, will be a response. Okay, semicolon, and this dot tasks right here will equal response, semicolon. Okay, so let's walk through this a little bit because something here doesn't seem right to me right off the bat. Okay, first off, it's not an underscore subscribe. Okay, so maybe that's my issue. Put a space in there so it's a little more readable. And my console's missing an E. Okay. So what does this really mean? So we're going to use our injected method. Okay. Sorry, our injected object, and it's got this get method, get tasks method that we can call. So this subscribe has to do with the observable that we've talked about before. Okay, so that's where we have the observable up there. And so instead of observable, we're actually subscribing. Okay. So basically call the event and then watch and wait for something to come back. That's what we're trying to do here. So if we get a response, then we're going to log that response to the console. And then we're going to populate our tasks variable. And of course, if we have an error, we can deal with the error. Okay, so with the error, we're going to say error. Is that no, I don't want it that way. It's close enough, but I'll do it like this. ERR. Okay, do the lambda and console dot log and put in the error. Okay, and semicolon. At this point, I really don't have anything to show. The only positive thing that I can say is that I haven't broken this. It's still actually outputting this. So what I want to do is now go to my tasks HTML. So if I open this up in my task.component.html, I can go in and start doing some work inside of here. Maybe we can get something to output. So I have a lot that I can actually put into this HTML. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and type it all out and then you can follow along. Okay, so okay, so just those 4 things are in that part of the table. And now I want to do this Angular version of a loop that I can cycle through, and it's going to be incorporated with some handlebars. Okay, so that next piece is going to be like this. Okay, so let me tighten that up a little bit. Okay, and then I think the last thing, I'm going to put some buttons in there. Okay, and these buttons could be, let's go this way. That's the first one. All right, so the other one will be like this. Class, it'll be a button again. So you can see that I'm getting all these errors here about a bunch of different things. And I think I need to go back to here for a second and check something out that's in here. I've got this export class app component, and I can do this implements on init. Okay, and that's giving me an error right off the bat. And the fix to that might be this do an import. Okay, so if you look at the this error here, Alt Enter. So if I do Alt Enter, Alt Shift Enter. Not what I wanted at all. Okay, that's what I was looking for, not that other message. This add import statement. So that changed my statement up there. It actually added the on init here. Okay, so if I go back to where I was a second ago, into here, let's see. Okay, so big giant mistake that I've made. I've actually been doing this in the wrong component. I've been doing all this task stuff in the actual, it shouldn't be an app component, it should be task component that I'm doing this. So if you've done that, no big deal. What I'm going to do is actually just, right now I'm going to move everything over, okay? So first thing, I'm going to take all of this from my app component, and I'm going to do a highlight it and Control X, go to task component, okay? And I might have lost it. That's never good. Okay, let's do this. Okay. Control X, go to task component. Okay, and drop that in there. So right away I do have this error, and the reason I've got the error is because it's not the proper routing. Okay. So I'm going to move that over. Let's go back to app. Okay, and see what else I need to move over. Probably this one here, this providers, should probably come over as well. So I'm going to take that out. Put that right below here after a comma. Okay, so that's good. What else do I want to put in? Let me just go through and have a quick look. If I look at the app component constructor, this stuff here, I can take this. I'm going to take that out and put that inside this constructor in there. What else? I think back in my app components, I want tasks any, and I'm going to take that, put that over here, right inside the on init. Okay, what else? It looks like this stuff here is going to be an issue. Let me think about this one for a minute. Okay, so let's take this whole thing right here. I'm going to take that and bring that over to right here. Actually, put that right there. And I've got two of them, so I'm going to take this out. Okay, what else do I need to change? And I need to clean this up here, so I can take out that there and just stay with the title. Okay, don't even need the constructor. Okay, so I'm just going to clean all that up. And quickly we're going to look at it. So app component, we're fine. In fact, I don't need this either. This on init. Okay, I can take that out. So, yeah, that's looking a lot more clean than it was. So this is all our app component. Okay, and sorry about that. I actually put it all in the wrong spot. So you should just have your import component from Angular core, your app root, HTML, CSS, and then your class, and with the title saying mean tasks. Okay, so we go to task manager, it's a different story. Now we have the on init up here. Okay, we've imported the task service from here, and don't forget to add the extra dot. We're going to do the providers for task service. And in this, we've got to add the on init, and we implement that on init right here. Okay, and it's tasks any, and then we get down to the constructor. Okay, and that's private, task service, and task service. Okay, and now we're getting back down to this this comment we had earlier. When Angular initializes this component, automatically call the API to get all the tasks. So then we're building into here. Okay. Okay, so I've cleaned up that little bit of a mess that I created. And let's go back to here now. And you can see that the tasks is no longer giving an error. Okay, but it does say that I still have 4 unresolved issues here. But I want to go and look at my HTML right now. And this is what I've got after I've just rechanged everything. So I've got the 2 buttons, and I've got my the rest of my name, priority, complete, and actions. Not really sure why my line stops there, but honestly, I don't care. Just at the moment, I don't care. So let's go back in and look at the code and see if we can fix this. So basically these 2 warnings that I'm getting, which makes sense to me, is it's saying that unresolved function or method select task. So this. Okay, and then delete task. Okay, it's saying that those are not functions yet. Unresolved variable or type task. Okay, this one here, it's not resolved to that. So I think we can get in there and fix these. I don't see it as a real big deal. And of course, for starters, select task and delete task, these 2 here, we haven't actually created those yet. So I'm not at all surprised at throwing an error. So I do have one thing that I think I should take care of right now. And it's this idea of, it's something called cross-origin requests. Okay, so really the difference between let's say, local hosts and all. Anyway, there's really no good way for me to honestly explain the way this is going to be. So what I think I'm going to do is just type in the code. And if there's chance, we're going to come back to this in another time. And we're going to talk about all this. Okay, so where do I need to find this? So I think what I'll do is I'll put it right in here. Okay, and I'm not going to spend too much time today talking about this one, but I am going to come back and finish it. But before I do this, I do want to add const globals equals require and brackets, single quotes, and this is going to be slash slash, and I'm looking for config and globals. Okay, so I am going to put that in there for now. So let's get back to this cross origin request. So like I said, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this, but you can follow along. I do suggest you put it in your code as I go. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff here that we need to go through. I just want to make sure that I don't have any errors in what I'm doing. This is all just to let the request from our Angular server talk with the API. Okay, so this is just a lot of really ugly code that, like I said, I'm not going to spend much time on it. But it's really meant to avoid some errors coming up in the possible future. So this video, I think, is turning out to be quite lengthy. And one thing I'm going to do is just knock it off for there. Just look at these buttons. They're not attached to anything. And as you can see, I still don't have any data. Okay, so I still have quite a ways away to go. Probably at least another, let's say, 45 minutes or more of recording. And I think that this recording is far too long. So I think I'm just going to knock it off there and come back and finish another video for this. Okay, so yeah, let's end the video there and resume next time. Okay, so thanks everybody for watching and good luck with your version of this. Thanks.